Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance of Cincinnati, Ohio. I have a store located in Old Montgomery, across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. And I write a monthly blog on our website, audibleelegance.com. We do work also on Facebook and Instagram. And I do encourage you to subscribe. It helps us to constantly try to improve our channel. And tonight I thought I'd go back a little bit in the history area. And the locals here know me as quite a turntable advocate. And this really came to a sudden boil with the introduction of compact disc and digital recordings. And part of the reason for that was our disappointment in the quality of the digital recordings themselves. There was something simply wrong. Yet there were other recordings that were heads taller in performance over a lot of the other ones. And eventually we learned, and this was in the 80s, that there was a great disparity in performance between the Mitsubishi digital recorders and the Sony dash systems. And Sony was incredibly popular at that time, so they basically dominated the digital recording industry. But there were certain groups of musicians, they would not have anything typically to do with the dash system. And interestingly enough, as we worked further and further with digital systems, particularly trying to work with radio stations, Theta Digital, which had incredible digital processors at that time, simply said the only people you want to talk to are the country radio stations, because they really pay attention to what's going on. And the other experience we had was we worked with a local recording studio, particularly the artists, and we actually sponsored them at Jazz Live at the Hyatt. And when they had cut a couple albums and they had digital recording, they came out to the store and they wanted to hear the results of the recording. And I'll be as polite as I can about it, but one of the lead musicians, simply said, "Effing digital." He was really unhappy with what he was hearing of his performance. And I don't know exactly what recorder was used, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the Sony dash system. So if you're going back and you're collecting music from that time period, if you take the time to look at the jackets or information about it, try to see what recording system was used to create the album. Oftentimes that's not included. So you may have to do a little digging. One of the best rock musicians out there who also used the MITS system was Peter Gabriel. And one of his strongest albums that he put out was So. And that was done on a MITS. So, as you know, I have a little fondness for Peter Gabriel because he really plays with the range of instrumentation from the really high to what I call the subterranean sounds. He's really good at it. So you have to be careful about it. A lot of the classical recordings at that time, I being quite a classical collector, were miserable, is the only word I can use for it. They lacked all of the fidelity that had been done under the analog systems. Subsequently, both of those systems have faded away and they're no longer used, and the recordings are much, much better. So much so that when you start trying to compare analog versions of it versus the digital, well, I shouldn't say that, vinyl versus a digital playback, I mean, a CD or whatever, they're almost indistinguishable because of the quality of the recorder. And there might be some variations here and there, one favoring more than the other, but they're much, much closer than they were in the early 80s. As I said, there were a lot of tragic recordings of great artists, and they're not going to go back and re-record those. I mean, some of those artists aren't even alive anymore, so you get what you get. So look about that, and just kind of a little insight as to maybe why you're not enthusiastic about some of the recordings of the 80s. It's not you. It was them.